Leah Bat Bracha did not want to be standing at Sinai. But contrary to what you might have heard or read, all of us women were there. We just weren't part of the official count. Eliezer and I had a huge argument about it the night before. I don't have time to go stand around that mountain. I've got too much cooking and cleaning to do. You go, tell me what happens. Wife, Eliezer says to me, you saw the notices. It's true. They were pinned to the flaps of every tent. I saw some down at the wash houses, over at the fire circles. Everyone had to attend. The young, the old, men, the women, the newborn, the dying. Since we didn't know exactly what time Moses was coming down from the mountain, I knew it meant that we would have to leave at the crack of dawn. We lived furthermost away from the scene of the action, with the poor families at the edge of the encampment. I didn't even bother going to sleep that night, what with preparation for the long day's trek ahead. Eliezer says to wake him when I'm ready. And sure enough, he gets up bright and chipper, and he hustles me and the kids out the flaps of the tent and into the crowds. The crowds. The noise, the smell, the pushing, and the dust. Everywhere the dust. You could hardly breathe for the dust. And all along the way, we saw that members of Reuben's tribe had set up gambling booths. And they were taking bets on exactly what moment Moses would appear from coming down the mountain. Eliezer wanted to place a bet, but we're not like some families, and I don't mean to be gossipy or small-minded here, but like the Cohens and the Levies who managed to leave Egypt with all their valuables intact. The one pair of gold earrings that I had from my mother, may she rest in peace, I donated to that monstrosity. The golden calf, such an eyesore, ruined the whole desert vista. And when Aaron and his henchmen took it down, they carted off all the spoils, and what did we get from it? Bupkis, maybe a tax rebate. I pulled Eliezer away from those gambling tables and back into the crowds. And when we were at least a mile from the mountain, we came to a sudden standstill, slammed up against the people in front of us, more and more people coming in, hemming us from behind. And as we stood there, we felt, the only way to describe this is like this thundering silence ripple through our bodies. It wasn't unpleasant. In fact, it seemed to cleanse us of all unnecessary noise. And in its wake, hundreds of melodies came rolling off the mountain. Beautiful melodies. And you know, they say, if you don't know where a melody came from, it came from Sinai. And we all opened our mouths to sing that most beloved of melodies. Hiya, 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 hiya. You might know this, you can sing. Yada, da, 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 da. Yada, da, 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 da. Except with that lag time from the front to the back, pretty soon we were all singing in different keys and different tempos. And you know, in some synagogues, they still like to pray that way. It makes them feel like they're standing in Sinai. In other synagogues, they like to pray in unison. Me, I have no opinion, to each his own. But I could feel everybody around me getting restless. Moses, Moses, when are we going to see Moses? Until a man nearby said, don't you know that Moses is simply an apparition of our collective imagination? And it's said that if you look through and beyond the light where you believe Moses to be standing, you will see all the way forward into the past where we are as one, unshattered, unbroken. Everybody began craning their necks, trying to look through and beyond the light. But don't worry, the man continued. Even if you yourself don't have this vision, if those who do can communicate the transformative power of this experience to those who are open to listening and receiving, it will be as if we all had this vision. Well, with that, the men around me began to throw themselves on the ground, praying that they might be open to listening and receiving. When I saw that Eliezer was about to throw himself on the ground, I said, what, are you crazy? You're going to get yourself trampled to death. And I pulled him up to me. And that's when we saw it. The mountain was on fire. And from off the mountain, a voice came booming. Was it the voice of Moses? The voice of God or the voice of our collective imagination? And the voice said, "Here are the words you need to survive forever and ever." We all heard the words, and afterwards we began repeating them to each other. And you know, in the way when people begin to repeat what they heard, they change a little word here and they change a little word there. And I could see that for centuries to come, people would be debating exactly what was said and what did it all mean. For me, it came down to so much common sense. Don't murder, don't steal, don't go after someone else's wife, respect your parents. I've been saying stuff like that for years. We wouldn't have survived until now if we hadn't lived by those principles. Afterwards, Eliezer sat in his corner of the tent, rocking back and forth, saying he felt enlightened, at one with the cosmos. Me, I don't have time for the cosmos. I have to get dinner ready for the kids, and I have to mend Eliezer's coat that got torn in the fray.